Salam, and welcome to Qur'an Masterclass. Qur'an Explained. Today we continue our journey through Surah Nahl, the chapter of the bee. We'll be exploring verses 84 through 100, a powerful passage that speaks to the heart of every believer. This section covers some of the most profound themes in the entire Qur'an: accountability before God, the trials of this world, the weight of testimony on the Day of Judgment, and the call to remain steadfast in faith. So let's begin. And may Allah make this beneficial for all of us. Before we dive into verse 84, let's briefly recall where we are. Surah Nahl is the 16th chapter of the Qur'an, revealed in Mecca during a time of intense pressure on the early Muslim community. The surah takes its name from the bee, a symbol of divine wisdom, community, and purpose. The verses we're studying today form a climactic section of the surah, where God shifts the focus toward the ultimate reckoning, the day when every nation will be called to account. God opens this passage with a striking image. On the day of resurrection, He will raise up a witness from every nation, a messenger who was sent to that people during their time on earth. These witnesses will testify about whether the message was delivered, whether the people listened, and how they responded. This is not a small matter. Every community that ever existed will face this moment of testimony. The messenger will stand as evidence, either for the people or against them. On that day, those who rejected the truth will not be given permission to offer excuses. They will not be allowed to argue their case or explain themselves. This is a profound point. In this life, people always have something to say. There is always an excuse, always a justification. But on the day of judgment, that door will be closed. The time for excuses will have passed. What remains is only what was done, and what was left undone. The verse continues with a warning. Those who wronged themselves will not be able to shift blame or change their position. In this world, people move between groups. They align themselves with the powerful. They distance themselves from the truth when it becomes inconvenient. But on that day, there will be no switching sides. Every soul will stand exactly where their choices place them. The alignments of this world will mean nothing. Verse 85 delivers one of the most sobering statements in the Qur'an. When the wrongdoers actually see the punishment, when it is right before their eyes, it will not be lightened for them, and they will not be given any more time. This is the moment when everything becomes undeniably real. In this life, the punishment of the next life can feel distant, abstract, even theoretical, but that day will make it completely and terrifyingly real. And by then, it will be too late to turn back. Now God addresses those who associated partners with Him, those who worshipped other than God, whether idols, false deities, or anything placed above the Creator. On that day, they will see what they used to worship, and those false objects of worship will say to them, "You are liars." The things they devoted themselves to, the things they sacrificed for, the things they trusted, will disown them completely. This is the ultimate betrayal, and it is a betrayal they brought upon themselves. On that day, the wrongdoers will submit to God, but it will be a submission born of desperation, not of faith. They will offer their complete surrender when they see the reality of what awaits them. But this is not the submission that saves. The submission that saves is the one made freely, in this life, before the veil is lifted. Submission on the day of judgment, when there is no other option, carries no weight. The time for meaningful choice is now, in this world. The disbelievers on that day will wish they could offer everything, if only it could save them from the punishment. But nothing will be accepted, no ransom, no bargain, no deal. This is a recurring theme in the Qur'an, the idea that on the day of judgment the currency of this world becomes worthless. Wealth, status, connections, influence. None of it transfers. The only thing that matters is what was built in the heart and expressed through action in this life. Verse 88 introduces a principle of divine justice that is both fair and sobering. Those who disbelieved and prevented others from the path of God, those who actively worked to keep people away from the truth, will receive a doubled punishment. They will bear the weight of their own rejection, and they will bear a share of the burden of every person they misled. This is why leadership carries such enormous responsibility. Those who use their influence to spread falsehood will answer for every soul they turned away. The verse specifies that this doubled punishment is because of the corruption they spread in the earth. It wasn't just personal disbelief. It was active, deliberate harm. They didn't just reject the truth themselves. They worked to corrupt others, to spread doubt, to normalize wrongdoing. God sees all of this. Every act of corruption, every word designed to mislead, every effort to turn hearts away from what is right. It is all recorded, and it will all be accounted for. Verse 89 returns to the theme of witnesses, but now with even greater detail. On that day, God will raise up from every nation a witness against them, their own messenger. And then God says something extraordinary. He will bring the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as a witness over all of these witnesses. The Prophet will testify about his own community. This is why the Qur'an was revealed, as a clarification of all things, a guidance, a mercy, and good news for those who submit. The end of verse 89 describes the Qur'an in 4 powerful ways. It is a clarification of all things, a guidance, a mercy, and good news for those who submit to God. Each of these descriptions deserves reflection. The Qur'an clarifies, it removes confusion about what is true and what is false. It guides, it shows the path forward. It is a mercy. It was not sent to burden us but to liberate us. And it is good news. For those who choose to receive it, it carries the promise of something far greater than this world. We now arrive at verse 90, one of the most celebrated and comprehensive verses in the entire Qur'an. God commands 3 things and forbids 3 things in a single verse. He commands justice, excellence in conduct, and giving to those who are close to us. He forbids indecency, wrongdoing, and oppression. This verse is so complete in its moral vision that it has been recited in Friday sermons across the Muslim world for over 14 centuries. It is a summary of an entire ethical framework in just a few words. The first command in verse 90 is justice. Justice is not just a legal concept. It is a moral and spiritual one. It means giving every person, every situation, and every matter its rightful due. It means not favoring the powerful over the weak. It means not letting personal feelings distort your judgment. Justice is the foundation upon which communities stand. When justice is present, societies flourish. When it is absent, they collapse. God places it first in this verse, because without it, nothing else can function properly. The second command is excellence, doing good not just because it is required, but because it is the right thing to do. Excellence means going beyond the minimum. It means treating people with kindness even when you are not obligated to. It means doing your work with care and integrity even when no one is watching. This is the quality that elevates a person from merely following rules to truly embodying goodness. It is the difference between a person who avoids harm and a person who actively creates good. The third command in verse 90 is giving to those who are near, family, neighbors, those in your immediate circle. This is a reminder that charity and goodness begin at home. It is easy to feel generous in the abstract, to care about distant causes while neglecting the people right in front of you. God reminds us that our first responsibility is to those closest to us. The family is the first community. The neighborhood is the first society. Goodness that starts there ripples outward. Verse 90 then turns to what God forbids. The first is indecency. behavior that violates moral boundaries, that degrades human dignity, that corrupts the social fabric. The second is wrongdoing, transgressing against others, taking what is not yours, causing harm. The third is oppression, using power to crush those who are weaker, to silence those who speak truth, to maintain injustice through force. These three prohibitions cover the full spectrum of moral failure. Together, they describe everything that destroys individuals and societies. Verse 91 shifts to the theme of covenants and promises. God commands the believers to fulfill their covenant with Him when they have made one, and not to break their oaths after confirming them. God has made Himself a guarantor over what we promise. This applies to our covenant of faith, the commitment we made to believe in God and live according to His guidance. It also applies to every promise we make to other people. A person of faith is a person of their word. Breaking promises is a form of betrayal, of others and of God. The verse warns against breaking oaths after they have been confirmed. In the context of the early Muslim community, this referred to people who would pledge allegiance and then abandon it when it became difficult. But the principle is universal. Every time we make a commitment and then abandon it for convenience, we erode our own integrity. We become people who cannot be trusted. And more importantly, we become people who have broken faith with God, because every sincere commitment made in His name carries His witness. Verse 92 presents one of the most vivid and memorable images in the Qur'an. God gives the example of a woman who spins her thread with great effort and then unravels it herself after it is done. This is the image of someone who works hard to build something and then destroys it with their own hands. God uses this image to describe those who make oaths and then break them, who build trust and then shatter it. All that effort, all that work, undone by a single act of betrayal. The verse continues by warning against using oaths as a means of deception, swearing by God in order to gain advantage over others, to appear trustworthy when you are not, to manipulate people into trusting you. This is a particularly serious offense because it involves using the name of God as a tool for personal gain. It corrupts the very foundation of social trust. When people can no longer rely on oaths, when words lose their weight, society begins to break down. God warns against this in the strongest terms. Verse 92 also addresses a subtle temptation, the idea that one group is more numerous or more powerful than another, and therefore their oaths and commitments matter more. God explicitly warns against breaking faith because you think your group is stronger or larger. This is a reminder that divine justice does not operate on the logic of power. The truth is not determined by who has more followers or more resources. God tests us through these very things, and the test is whether we remain faithful regardless of where the numbers fall. Verse 93 contains a profound theological statement. God says that if He had willed, He could have made all of humanity a single community, united in belief, with no disagreement or division. But He did not will this. He allows people to go astray, and He guides whom He wills, and He will surely question everyone about what they used to do. This verse reminds us that human diversity, including diversity of belief, is part of God's design. The existence of choice and the possibility of going wrong is what makes faith meaningful. Why did God not simply make everyone believers? Because faith that is forced is not faith. Goodness that is compelled is not goodness. The value of choosing the right path lies precisely in the fact that you could have chosen otherwise. God created a world where people have genuine freedom and genuine responsibility. The diversity of human choices, beliefs, and paths is not a failure of divine design. It is the very arena in which the human story unfolds and in which every soul is tested. Verse 94 returns to the theme of oaths with an urgent warning. Do not take your oaths as a means of deception between yourselves, lest your foot slip after it was firmly planted. This is a powerful image. The foot that was steady, that was on solid ground, suddenly slipping. Breaking faith, using oaths dishonestly, destabilizes you. It removes you from the firm ground of integrity and places you on a slope. And once you start sliding, it becomes harder and harder to stop. The verse warns that breaking oaths will cause you to taste evil in this world, not just in the next. The consequences of dishonesty and broken trust are not only spiritual, they are practical and immediate. Relationships collapse, reputations are destroyed, communities fracture. The person who uses oaths as tools of manipulation may gain a short-term advantage, but they lose something far more valuable: the trust of others and the integrity of their own soul, and they will face a severe punishment in the next life as well. Verse 95 delivers one of the most direct commands in this passage. Do not sell the covenant of God for a small price. What is with God is better, if only you knew. This is the fundamental choice that every human being faces. The covenant of God, the commitment to truth, to faith, to integrity, has a price. It sometimes costs you comfort, convenience, social approval, or material gain. But what God offers in return is infinitely greater. The problem is that we often cannot see it clearly. We trade the eternal for the temporary. The verse emphasizes that whatever is gained by breaking the covenant of God is a small price. This is a perspective shift. In the moment of temptation, the gain can seem enormous: a business deal, a social advantage, a moment of comfort. But measured against eternity, it is nothing. The Qur'an repeatedly invites us to zoom out, to see our choices not just in the context of this week or this year, but in the context of what lasts forever. When you zoom out that far, the calculation changes completely. Verse 96 makes the contrast explicit. Whatever you have will come to an end. Whatever God has will endure. And those who are patient will be given their reward according to the best of what they used to do. This is one of the most comforting verses in the Qur'an for those who are struggling. Everything in this world is temporary: your wealth, your health, your relationships, your achievements. But what God has prepared for those who are patient and faithful is permanent. It does not fade. It does not expire. The promise at the end of verse 96 is remarkable. Those who are patient will be rewarded according to the best of what they used to do. Not the average, the best. God does not average out your life and reward you for the middle. He looks at your finest moments, your greatest acts of faith and patience, and He rewards you according to those. This is the generosity of God. It is an invitation to strive, because every act of patience, every moment of holding firm when it would have been easier to let go, is being recorded. Verse 97 contains one of the most beautiful promises in the Qur'an. Whoever does righteous deeds, whether male or female, while being a believer, God will give them a good life in this world, and He will reward them in the next life according to the best of what they used to do. This verse is remarkable for two reasons. First, it explicitly includes both men and women, a statement of spiritual equality that was revolutionary in its time. Second, it promises goodness in this life, not just the next. Faith is not only about the afterlife, it transforms the present. The good life promised in verse 97 is not necessarily a life of luxury or ease. Scholars have understood it to mean a life of contentment, a life in which the heart is at peace, in which there is meaning and purpose, in which even difficulty is met with patience and trust in God. This is a quality of life that cannot be bought. It is not found in wealth or status. It is found in the alignment between what you believe and how you live. When your inner and outer life are in harmony, that is the good life. Verse 98 gives a practical instruction. When you recite the Qur'an, seek refuge in God from the rejected devil. This is a command that Muslims follow to this day. Before beginning to recite the Qur'an, they seek God's protection. Why? Because the Qur'an is a light, and the devil works to extinguish lights. He works to distract, to confuse, to prevent the words of God from reaching the heart. Seeking refuge is an acknowledgement that we need divine protection to truly receive what the Qur'an has to offer. Verse 99 clarifies the limits of the devil's power. He has no authority over those who believe and place their trust in their Lord. The devil can whisper, suggest, and tempt, but he cannot compel. He cannot force anyone to do anything. His power is limited to influence, and that influence only takes hold when a person opens the door to it. The believer who maintains their connection to God through prayer, remembrance, and trust is protected. The devil's whispers find no purchase in a heart that is firmly anchored in faith. Verse 100 answers the question directly. The devil's authority is only over those who take him as a protector, those who ally themselves with him, and those who associate partners with God. This is a profound statement. The devil does not conquer people by force. He is invited in. When a person chooses to follow their desires over their conscience, when they choose falsehood over truth, when they place something above God in their heart, they open the door. The devil's power is ultimately a power that people grant him. Let's pause and reflect on one of the major themes of this passage: testimony. The day of judgment is described repeatedly as a day of witnesses. Every nation will have a witness. The prophet will be a witness over all witnesses. Our own deeds will testify. Even our own bodies will testify. This is a world in which nothing is hidden and nothing is lost. Every act of goodness, every act of harm, every moment of faith, every moment of doubt, it is all being recorded. And it will all be presented clearly and completely on that day. Another major theme of this passage is the covenant, the promise. God takes promises seriously. He commands us to fulfill our commitments, to honor our oaths, to be people of our word. This is not just about formal religious vows. It is about the everyday fabric of trust that holds communities together. When people keep their promises, society functions. When they don't, it fractures. The Qur'an is calling us to be people of integrity, not because it benefits us strategically, but because it is what God requires of us. Patience is another thread running through this entire passage. The reward for patience is mentioned multiple times. Patience in the face of temptation, not breaking your oath for short-term gain. Patience in the face of hardship, trusting that what God has is better than what you are losing. Patience in the face of opposition, continuing to stand for truth even when it is costly. This is not passive resignation. It is active, conscious, faithful endurance. And God promises that it will be rewarded generously and according to the very best of what you did. Let's return one more time to verse 90, because it deserves more than one visit. Justice, excellence, and giving to those who are near. These three commands form a complete moral framework. Justice ensures that no one is wronged. Excellence ensures that we go beyond mere compliance and actively do good. Giving to those who are near ensures that our goodness is not abstract but concrete and personal. Together, they describe a person and a community that is truly aligned with what God wants from us. Among the three things forbidden in verse 90, oppression deserves special attention. Oppression, using power to harm those who are weaker, is one of the most serious offenses in the Qur'an. God describes himself as the one who has forbidden oppression for himself and has made it forbidden among his creation. Oppression is not just a political or social problem, it is a spiritual one. Every act of oppression is a rebellion against the divine order, and every oppressor will face a reckoning that is perfectly proportionate to the harm they caused. One of the most important lessons of this passage is the inseparability of faith and ethics. You cannot claim to believe in God while breaking your promises, oppressing others, spreading corruption, and using religion as a tool for personal gain. Faith is not just a set of beliefs held in the mind. It is a way of living in the world. The Qur'an consistently connects what we believe with how we behave. True faith produces justice, honesty, generosity, and patience. If those qualities are absent, The faith itself needs to be examined. The repeated references to the Day of Judgment in this passage are not meant to terrify, they are meant to motivate. When you know that every action is being recorded, that every promise will be examined, that every act of oppression will be answered for, it changes how you live. The Day of Judgment is not just a future event, it is a present reality that shapes every choice you make today. The believer lives with an awareness of that day, and that awareness is one of the most powerful forces for moral transformation. Verse 89 described the Qur'an as a clarification of all things. This is a bold claim, and it is one that Muslims have understood not as a claim that the Qur'an contains every piece of information, but that it contains the principles needed to navigate every situation. The Qur'an gives us the moral compass, the spiritual foundation, and the ethical framework to face whatever life brings. It is not a static text from the past. It is a living guide for every generation, in every place, in every time. The role of the Prophet as a witness over his community is a profound responsibility and a profound honor. He delivered the message completely and faithfully. He lived it in his own life. He demonstrated what it looks like to embody the Qur'an. And on the Day of Judgment, he will testify about his community. This is why his example matters so much. He is not just a historical figure. He is the living demonstration of what the Qur'an looks like in practice. His life is the commentary on the text. Verse 97's explicit inclusion of both men and women in the promise of a good life and a great reward is worth dwelling on. In a world where women were often treated as spiritually secondary, the Qur'an declared clearly, righteous deeds are rewarded equally regardless of gender. The path to God is open to everyone. The promise of a good life is for everyone. The reward of the next life is for everyone. This is not a minor point. It is a foundational statement about the nature of divine justice and human dignity. As we approach the end of our exploration of these verses, let's draw out some practical takeaways. First, keep your promises. Every commitment you make carries weight before God. Second, pursue justice and excellence in everything you do, not just the minimum. Third, be generous to those closest to you. Fourth, protect yourself from the devil's influence by maintaining your connection to God. Fifth, remember that this world is temporary. Invest in what lasts. These verses sit within a surah that is fundamentally about the signs of God in creation. The bee, the honey, the mountains, the rivers, the animals, the human body. All of creation points to the Creator. And then the surah turns to the moral and spiritual implications of that recognition. If you truly see God in creation, if you truly acknowledge His power and wisdom, then you will live accordingly. You will be just. You will be honest. You will be patient. The signs of God in the world are meant to produce signs of God in your character. The image of the woman who unravels her thread stays with me as we close. What are we building? Every day, through our choices, our words, our commitments, our relationships, we are weaving something. We are building a life, a character, a legacy. The question is, are we building with integrity, or are we unraveling our own work? Are we keeping our promises or breaking them? Are we pursuing justice and excellence, or settling for less? These verses call us to be builders of ourselves, our families, and our communities. Salam, and thank you for joining us on this journey through Surah An-Nahl verses 84 to 100. This passage has taken us through some of the deepest themes in the Qur'an: accountability, testimony, the weight of promises, the promise of a good life for the faithful, and the ultimate reality of the Day of Judgment. May Allah make us among those who fulfill their covenants, who pursue justice and excellence, who are patient in trials, and who meet that day with hearts that are at peace. If this video benefited you, please share it, leave a comment, and subscribe to Qur'an Masterclass. Until next time, take care, stay faithful, and keep learning.